Welcome to another episode of Monster Dear Monster. My name's Matt. I'm hosting this session, and you'll be glad to hear we've got the full crew in for this one. So, to my left, I have Dave. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing fine. How's it going?
I'm good. And Cameron, on my right, how you doing?
Hello. I'm glad to be back. Sorry for my absence last episode.
It's all right. The Monster Dear Monster train keeps going. But no, you can feel the excitement. The three of us are back. The three musketeers or three monster-tears? No, we won't do that. Right, okay. And in this episode, we'll have a werewolf theme. We'll be comparing two films in this episode. It's the first of a two-parter. Okay, so this first episode, we'll be comparing the 2014 film Late Phases, and we'll be comparing that with the 1981 film An American Werewolf in London. And the next episode will be focused on dog soldiers and other miscellaneous werewolf-related things, and finally your responses. Okay? So, Dave, Late Phases, talk to me.
So we're taking a look at Late Phases. As Matt said, it's a recent film. It came out in 2014. This one is directed by Adrian Garcia Bogliano, and it has a pretty stellar cast here. We got a cast list that's been in the genre industry, I guess, for a good 30 years, if not longer, and pretty much all of the main cast has been in minimum 3 to 4 pretty solid horror films. So a couple of those I think we'll be able to take a look at later in a future episode.
Definitely.
And the general plot of this film, we have a Vietnam veteran who's been placed into it's not really a retirement community. It's a retirement community.
Well, it's retirement community, isn't it?
His son. And he's blind. It's injuries he sustained in the war, and that got worse as time went on. And they come to find that this little peaceful retirement community might not be all as it seems.
Because where would the film be if it didn't?
Exactly.
But yeah, he's a bit fierce, this guy, isn't he? Ambrose McKinley. Good name. Solid name. He's quite. He definitely comes across as a vet, doesn't he? A grumpy vet, doesn't he? You know, he's like he's seen a lot. And no pun intended on that either. He feels like he has seen a lot, and obviously it comes across in his character with the sort of odd relationship or fractured relationship he has with his son and his daughter-in-law. I presume that woman that we see later is his daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like Dave said, he's brought there sort of against his will, really. Clearly, he's not the sort of guy that likes to be in a retirement community. He's quite an independent guy. And you see the sort of issues he has with, being home there, which is probably, I would imagine, for a lot of parents of that age, so he's not by himself. But with the actor actually that plays Ambrose McKinley, because I'm not really familiar with him myself. What sort of other big things has he been in that you know of? That have you guys watched him in anything else? Yeah,
I've seen 2 of the films that I put down as his part of his related filmography. So this is Nick D'Amici, and he stars in the stellar Stakeland and the most recently released Part 2, which came out this year. He was also in Dark Was the Night, which is another good creature feature, which maybe we'll take a look at down the road.
Yeah.
I personally, this is his first film that I've seen, and I really liked what he did with this film. I thought he played it pretty well. He made a good character. And he played blind well, which doesn't sound like it'd be too hard to do, but no, he does a very good job of not looking directly at people, sort of just facing the general direction, never blinking as well, which was pretty impressive. Like, he must have gotten dry out on some of those longer shots.
No, you're right, Cameron. He does it really well. he comes across as that sort of passive aggressive sort of character. He plays the role really well. Actually, you can tell that they said to him beforehand, just be grumpy vet. You're blind. Go with it, but he does it very well. And like I said, I don't think actually straight away he comes across as obviously being blind. I mean, maybe I wasn't paying attention for the first few minutes of the film, but he didn't, it shows he sort of didn't play, how well he played it. Actually, he didn't come across as an obvious blind character until I sort of, noticed. And one of the, I think, fantastic parts of him is the thing he uses instead of a cane in the in this film. For anyone that's not watched it, he basically uses a shovel as his walking stick, effectively, which I think is a fantastic choice. I mean, to be fair, I think that's what, if I was in that situation, I would rather use a shovel rather than the standard stick. So no, that is great, to be fair. So he gets put into the community, and he meets, a couple of local women, who come across, the sort of type that would bake him a cake and such like. And he comes across as very, again, aggressive towards them. Not, he's not that sort of person really, which obviously puts him off. And then he eventually meets Dolores, his neighbor, which he obviously warms a bit more to. He doesn't have, she's not the same sort of busybody that the other women have. Okay,
he's very suave as well.
Oh yeah,
he really puts the moves on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Our Ambrose here, he knows. He's not just a potential werewolf killer. He's he's a charmer as well. But yeah, he has some interaction with Dolores at this point, who unfortunately is not going to last around for much longer. Because this is where we, effectively see the first part regarding the future werewolf that we'll see later in the film. What was your guys' take on this? I'll save mine, but for a second, what do you think of this first scene involving the werewolf, Dave?
No, I thought that this really set a tone for the film. I mean, it doesn't come out of nowhere. The film sort of foreshadows at least something's wrong. But this is the first real glimpse we get of that. And that's mostly what it is. It's a glimpse. We don't get a full picture of this werewolf, as far as I can recall, which works really well. I mean, it casts the viewer, puts us in the shoes of our blind veteran. We're kind of getting partial glimpses. It's more audio. We're getting a lot of sound of the werewolf attack versus like a full body shot and seeing this is the beast that we're going to see in the movie. It gives it a little bit more of a slow burn. We know pretty much going into this what it's going to be. It's not a surprise. We're not going, oh, it's a werewolf. I wasn't expecting.
Werewolf, really?
It's called Late Phases. But no, I really enjoyed it. And one last little bit on our lead here, Mr. D'Amici. They aged him up maybe about 20 years for this film. Okay. And the makeup job's pretty well done. I think he's in his late 50s, actually. You could have thought maybe he was older.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I definitely thought he was, yeah.
Yeah, because he looks in good shape, which obviously plays the part, because obviously he's a veteran, who would likely keep themselves in shape and such like. So yeah, I think that was quite a good choice. Actually, going back to the title Late Phases, I struggled actually to find it initially here in the UK, because it's actually got a slightly different title over here. It's actually called Night of the Wolf, and then : Late Phases. So like I said, it took me a while to actually find it. So, because when we were talking about what films we were going to cover this, and we were saying Late Phases, to me that didn't really come across as a werewolf film. So when I found it which ultimately was on Netflix over here, it's actually called Night of the Wolf, which I think it's actually only in a few countries. I think it's over here in the UK, somewhere like Sweden, etc. They have that title, something similar on those lines. But in America and other countries, it's just Late Phases. So that's just a little fact for you. I mean, before I go on to myself, Cameron, what's your take on the werewolf?
On the sort of early scenes with it?
Yeah, the Dolores attack.
Yeah. Oh, you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Dolores,
Carry on.
Dolores, are you okay?
Dolores, get up.
I really liked this sort of initial werewolf attack scene. I mean, it really does get things going right from the start of the movie. You know, you have like 10 minutes or so of him sort of moving in, getting to meet a couple of people, and then cut to like it's late at night. You know something's up because otherwise they wouldn't be showing you this scene, and you know sort of get hints as Dolores is sort of calling her daughter and saying, "Oh, when are we going to meet up?" And it's like, "I thought we were meeting this weekend." And then the daughter's trying to brush her off and say, "No, we can't do that," etc. But in the background, you can sort of just hear the start of like the heavier breathing. You can see it sort of in the background windows going back and forth a bit. And then the actual attack is actually pretty interesting because, yeah, like Dave said, you never see the werewolf full shot. You get a lot of shots sort of just focusing in on Dolores, who actually she puts up a fight with her walking frame, which good for her. Did work out.
Good effort.
Good for her.
Good effort, Dolores.
And then a large part of it is sort of just Ambrose sort of banging on the connecting wall between their houses, trying to get her to respond, and then he gets thrown back as the werewolf sort of hits the wall really hard, and then obviously comes and attacks him. And that's the bit I really like, is where he's crawling for the gun, and you just see the shadow of Shadow, his dog, trying to fight off the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of really adds to tension, but also you're not seeing anything clearly. You're just getting these snippets of dog noises, sort of some blurred shadows, and it really puts you in that mindset of not being able to see what's going on.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I mean, it's quite a powerful scene. I mean, I'm a bit conflicted on the werewolf in this film, if I'm being honest. I'll touch up more on that when we cover it later in the film. But I think it is a powerful scene because it's quite early on in the film that you see this, you know, quite a brutal attack, both on killing Dolores, ultimately mortally wounding Shadow, which is Ambrose's dog. So it is quite a brutal scene. I think that it was deliberately done to obviously impact the fact that, you know, you've just met Dolores. She's obviously a nice character. He's obviously, you know, taken a shine to her compared to a few of the other people and women in the community, and bang, she's gone. And you know, and it's quite, and it shows obviously how potentially gory the film's going to be as well. There's some quite, you know, with the, you know, there is this literally scene on the floor where she's on the floor, literally her guts are just piled out of her. It's, you know, it is very brutal, and you know, and then obviously you feel sorry for Shadow, his dog. Also, I think it comes across as well quite frightening even for Ambrose as well, because not just the fact it's a werewolf attack, but the fact he doesn't really know his surroundings at this point. He's only literally just turned up there, which obviously for anyone is very crucial, but especially someone that's blind, it's, you know, that's going to be personified even more. So, you know, you can tell he comes across as quite helpless, you know, in that side of things. And then there's this, you know, sort of tragic moment where he effectively puts Shadow down by shooting him, because, like I said earlier, he's been mortally wounded, and you see this horrible slash mark on the side of him. Actually, there was that bit earlier, just sort of going back a bit, when he first arrives in the retirement community. There's scratches on the wall, isn't there? That he first notices within. He finds a little bit of a piece of the end of one of the werewolf's claws in it, which obviously, you know, sort of sets the scene. But no, it is, like I said, it is a very powerful scene. You see, you know, sort of glimpses of the werewolf, and then that's when you start hearing about the full moon references and such like at this point. Now, this part I found a bit odd with the full moon side of things. Obviously, that's a traditional werewolf aspect. I suppose my sort of thing that I was not sure on this one is Ambrose starts repeating to himself, you know, right, you know, next full moon, such like. He's obviously clicked that it is a werewolf that's caused this. Now, my sort of biggest issue with this is I don't understand how he came to that conclusion, but I don't know what he based it on. I mean, I know obviously it's part of the film, so I'm aware of that. I suppose from a story point of view, and trying to put in quote marks realism in this, I'm just surprised how he had this attack and thought, I know, werewolf. And he's then thinking about full moons. He's then thinking later about silver bullets, etc. I don't know I don't know if that's just me, but I just thought that was a bit of an odd thing to do. How they sort of just straight away put it into, again, considering he's blind, that if obviously he'd seen it, then it would be a bit different. But I don't know if I said what you guys take on that.
I think that they gave us, and accordingly they gave Ambrose these pieces. So he finds the claw marks. He can feel that that's not that's high up on the wall. That's by that's shoulder. That's kind of hand height for a person. And he specifically asks Dolores, what is this? He can feel that it's a claw or something. But he can't see it. So she confirms, that looks like it's a claw from something. The moon thing comes afterward. She's like, I think it was just remarked that, it was a full moon. So he goes, well, there's a hand height thing. He can hear, when the wolf is attacking Shadow, or vice versa. He keys really hard on the breathing of the wolf, because it's very specific. It's got a kind of,
and that's a big thing through. That's the big thing through the film is you listen to different characters breathing, and they've all got wheezes for different reasons, and see him getting more and more
a little bit of red herring kind of territory. So when it's attacking him, I mean, despite the fact that I think he's kind of backed up against the wall, he's kind of on the floor, or I think because of that, when he's hearing it breathe, it's not going to be at like dog level.
It sounds high up,
a bit above you. Like it's fairly tall. So I just think that those little pieces together are the bits of the puzzle that the viewer is meant to go, okay, he didn't just leap to it. Oh, it's a werewolf. There was little things that lead to that, but you have to put those together. So I mean, it could be a little bit of leap there, but they gave us the pieces at least.
Like I said, I'm not sort of actively criticizing it. I just think that I just felt it was a bit of a long connection. All your points you said are completely valid. I completely agree with you. I just thought it was a bit. Maybe I'm doing Ambrose a disservice. Maybe maybe he would come to this conclusion. Quite clearly something was not right. Obviously, it wasn't a dog, or there was something more to it. So I get that. That makes sense. And then the sort of next bit is him effectively becoming a bit of a detective at this point, isn't he? Really, he starts suspecting and this is where new characters in the community get introduced. There's this scene shortly after, which I know it sounds wrong, but I found it hilarious with the I can't remember the I think her name's it's Gloria, one of the busybody women. He goes and visits her and finds that her husband is contained in an iron lung machine, which I think is to do with, is that polio, isn't it? I think that's
it's usually an old treatment for polio.
So he's in that machine, and obviously due to not being able to see, he accidentally turns off or disconnects the machine, which obviously then she suspects he's trying to kill her husband. I think it's just a bit of a comedy. It's a bit of an odd scene. It feels like it's some sort of comedy scene, really. I mean, I think it sort of was supposed to be. I don't know, but it's this sort of. I just felt that her as a character, she sort of completely turned on him. I know you could say, well, she almost killed her husband by turning off that machine, but obviously, clearly, I don't think he was doing it deliberately, but maybe. I don't know. It was more an accident, really. And so, you have that little. I thought that was a bit of a funny scene, to be fair.
I mean, I can see. I can see. It's sort of funny once you get that realization of, oh God, he nearly killed the old man and everything. But it's actually a little sort of tense leading up to that, because he gets to a house because he gets his mailman to lead him along a blood trail.
Yes,
which ends in front of her house, and he goes to the house, and she's like, "Oh, would you like some? I think it was some tea or something." And he's like, "Yes, that'd be nice." And then he just hears in the background that same sort of wheezing heavy breath, and sort of follows his ears. And you get this moment of, is he just going to round the corner? There's the werewolf in the bed, recovering from the night or something. But no, it's just this old guy in an iron lung.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was an interesting scene. I mean, then that's where, following on from that, he gets involved in the church side of things, which I think from memory is because he had a leaflet from advertising the sort of bus service, which I think the police officers read for him to sort of tell him it's something that he could do, which he makes a point he's not religious, etc., and wouldn't be interested. But obviously he knows that he needs to look into this werewolf situation a bit further, and that's where he meets the two sort of quite prominent characters, which is Father Roger Smith and James Griffin. Dave, what was your take on James Griffin?
I mean, right off the bat, this guy just was suspicious. So,
just a bit.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't know. I think throughout the film, this idea of the red herring and kind of dealing with the breathing, they put their cards on the table pretty quick. This movie as a whole moves really fast. It doesn't hold any cards close to its chest. It's just like, here's the stuff, guys. We're gonna just kind of run with it. What I did find was with James Griffin, the whole movie, I'm going, this guy's familiar. He's very familiar looking, but I can't place him. And eventually we went to his IMDb, and to my surprise, oh look, it's Alex from The Last Starfighter, and he aged horribly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't I think his face is familiar, but now he's kind of tubby, balding. He got older. That happens, but it just completely surprised me. And then also, what surprised me was he really didn't do anything after Last Starfighter. He was kind of absent, and we find that with a lot of these actors. They're either character actors or they're genre performers, and their heyday was the 80s. Then they're kind of not in it for a while, and then the directors went and sought out, maybe these are like his favorite actors as a younger guy or a kid, and he just brought them all together. That's what it looked like, and I think it works for the film. It kind of makes it, it gives it that sort of cult classic feel.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you look at, he's been in Halloween 2 and Jaws, it's definitely that sort of theme going on there. But he plays the role very well, actually, because he's sort of a character where he comes across as dodgy and sweaty. When I saw him, I thought this guy just looks like, if I can't obviously see it, but I imagine this guy would be sweating profusely. He just looks like that sort of, a bit creepy. Because he's for people who haven't seen the film, he runs or organises the shuttle bus to go to the church, and there's a scene where him and Father Roger are basically introducing themselves to him, and he doesn't really want to know, and he again reiterates that he's not religious, etc., and such like, and then he goes to service, which ends up being devoted to him as a Vietnam vet, and then he through the bus trip and afterwards, Ambrose realizes that the father has a smoking habit, which obviously gives him a bit of suspicion. Again, going back to the wheezing side of things, shares a cigarette with him as well. Doesn't he at this point make a comment about sort of wanting to potentially end it at some point? Sort of, it's quite morbid conversation.
Yeah, it's it's a theme that the movie deals with. The movie's a werewolf movie, but that's not what it's about. I didn't really feel like digging into that too much, but the movie's about loss, departure, aging. That's literally like the themes that are embedded in all of these characters and how they're dealing with just mortality. We get this this heavy talk between our Ambrose and the father. I think it's the second meeting that they have where he talks about potential suicide. Well, it's more that he understands or he feels that his death is close versus actually wanting to commit suicide. That's just sort of the father just picks up or on that. Or I guess he leads into that versus
I agree.
What Ambrose actually is meaning.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because like I said, I think he interprets it as potential suicide, but like I said, it's more like you said. He realizes his days are quite numbered at this point with everything that's going around him. So yeah, it's quite a it's quite a sad little scene actually, because I think throughout the film with Ambrose, he does at the start, he does come across as, like I said, aggressive, but you do feel sorry for him throughout the film, or at least I did anyway. You can tell, it's quite, for someone that's, like I said, done and seen all the things that I'm sure his character would have done. It's quite a sad existence, isn't it? Which for a lot of people, those sort of retirement communities are, which not necessarily they should be, but it's like for someone like him, it's not obviously how he saw his life ending, or the latter stages, especially coping with being blind as well on top of it. So yeah, it's quite a sad little scene. But there's a few other little scenes now where he goes to a gun shop, which is actually, I think, off the back of the Tombstone, or the gentleman that owns the Tombstone store, if that's such a thing. I don't know what they're referred to. Yeah. So he sorts a tombstone out, which is for Shadow, isn't it? It's for his dog, from memory. Is that right? Or sort of?
Yeah, it's for himself. I think the initial why he's there. But what he uses it for is, he's to bury his dead dog, much to everyone else's displeasure.
Yeah. He actually takes the dog with him after it's been after he puts it down earlier, which is obviously, like I said, it is quite horrific for the nearby people. The Tombstone seller basically gives him a contact of someone that owns a gun shop. Ambrose goes there. And I quite like the owner of the gun shop, because he's quite excitable, because Ambrose throws an idea of can you make silver bullets, and you can see there's that little glint in his eye, like he's been wanting to do this for a while, and so puts in an order for ammunition, because obviously you can see which way it's going to be going, and then again, then there's this bit where you see more breakdown between Ambrose and his son and daughter-in-law, where he basically doesn't want to know his father anymore. It's too stressful a situation, which you could see happening. It's starting to head that way, and then at this point we're starting to get into I'd say probably the latter stages of the film, because like you said, the pace of this film is quite fast. I think it's only about an hour and a half long anyway, so it's a relatively short film, and then this is the point where we start understanding who is the werewolf in this. For people that are guessing at this point, who is it? Effectively, it does turn out to be James Griffin, the sweaty, dodgy man that you thought he was going. Did you at this point? Did you guys sort of, Cameron? Did you sort of see at this point it was going to be him? Did you think?
Honestly, they sort of put me off the scent, as it were, with that one. He did sort of come off as sort of dodgy and sweaty, like you said early in the film. But I thought, because immediately after that, it's shown that he's quite popular with the older ladies of the retirement community, and I thought that was what that was about.
Yeah.
He's good point. He's one of those guys who likes older women. And I'm like, fair enough. If you want to live in the retirement community, do that. You do you. And it's like, that's just an odd character. And then, later on, he's driving Ambrose home and he has an asthma attack, and you hear his wheezing and heavy wheezing, and it sounds exactly like the werewolf. And I went, oh, it is him. Okay. He's not just some weirdo.
Yeah, he's, this is where we now start seeing sort of how how the transformation happens, because basically he effectively goes on a bit of a biting run, doesn't he, effectively? While he's still in human form, he basically goes around to see all his favourite women of the congregation and starts biting them. Well, there's actually one scene where he's actually in the house of one of the older couples, isn't he? Where they're in bed, realise there's a sound, and he's there in their lounge and starts to pray with them, which obviously the guy of the couple is a bit dubious about. The one with the eye patch, which appears later, shortly after this, and he basically bites them. He starts biting them on the wrists, etc. And this is sort of where we sort of learn, or throughout this sort of part, where if I think, well, this is how I interpreted that. Unless he kills them outright, they will turn into werewolves. So by biting and leaving the victim to sort of with just the bite and not actually kill them outright, they turn into werewolves. That's how I interpreted it anyway.
Yeah, that's what this looks like, and I'll say that I think that this idea and then how it's carried out is probably my favorite thing of the film, and maybe out of a lot of other werewolf films. Our main antagonist senses, or he sees outright and makes some conjectures that Ambrose is coming after him. I mean, he sees like the bag from that the gun shop, and this biting spree is literally a means of like protecting himself. He's like, well, I'm gonna be killed, or I could just go create a bunch of more werewolves and have like a pack running with me. So I don't think we've seen this happen before, not at least for this purpose.
It's more vampire-like, isn't it? Really, this whole biting and transforming people. It's definitely a vampire sort of theme to it. It's quite gory as well. This is where the actual bites, when he's sort of tearing his teeth back from. Because again, remember, at this point he is still in human form as he's doing it, so it looks like a very brutal, cannibalistic scene every time he's doing it to these these poor innocent old dears in the situation. So he like Dave said, he's basically creating a little mini werewolf army for himself at this point too, because obviously he knows that he's being suspected at this point, and then that's where he confesses to Father Smith, to basically say, I'm a werewolf, and then that's when you actually first seen the transformation, which again is quite horrific. I mean, obviously in most films these scenes are quite horrific. It's one where you get where his fingers extend, etc., and it's almost like it's breaking out of his body, isn't it? Effectively, like he's shedding skin.
He pulls off his own skin. It's coming from within.
And that's a detail I really, really love, because some of the older werewolf... No, seriously, some of the older werewolf mythology is, if you want to find out if someone's a werewolf, you cut the skin on the palm of their hand and you'll see the fur underneath. The idea is that a werewolf just wears a skin suit when they're in human form. It's sort of an older, like 1500s, 1600s thing. But I always love it when werewolf stuff does that. A few other things do it like that, but it was nice to see a more recent version. Yeah.
And it definitely has a lot of impact as well from a cinematic point of view as well. Just actually seeing him literally ripping, that his human form is just a skin, isn't it? Just like you see with snakes and such like. You just sort of tossing it aside, and it's quite a brutal transformation. And that's when you actually see the full werewolf form. I must admit, and again, this is where I'm going to start being negative at this point. I thought the werewolf form in this film lets it down, if I'm being honest. I think the form and the actual aesthetics of it was quite poor. I know it literally is, but I did feel it come across as a guy in a costume. And I thought it was a real shame. Again, I know that's obviously for a lot of people that's quite a plus point, but for me, I think the actual features of the facial features, the actual the actual costume that designed for the werewolf was just not something I liked, to be honest. I'm trying to sort of put my finger on it why I dislike it, but I felt it was just it was a bit of a letdown, to be honest, compared to other films. I mean, what I did compare it to, actually, when I was sort of looking around and sort of thinking, what's this reminding me of? There's Have you guys you've no doubt watched Masters of the Universe? You know, the real He-Man movie, real life. There's one of Skeletor's henchmen, which
Beastman.
I can't. No, not Beastman. I think it's
Really?
Karg or I should have researched this. There's one of his henchmen. He's got a face that looks like a scrotum, and he's got a big mane of sort of hair, quite tall. Again, he only appears in the Masters of the Universe movie.
Okay.
I said
I don't know the name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you probably if you research it, yeah, he reminds me of that, and I just don't think it looks like a werewolf. I know, apart from just being overly hairy, I just thought the design was could have been a bit better. Again, what do you guys think? I could be alone on this one, to be fair.
I'll let you go, Cameron.
Okay. I'm kind of in two minds about it. Like, if I think about it just from a straight viewpoint of design, they look kind of almost bug-like. Like the faces have these really big, bulbous eyes, and there's quite short, squat faces. And I kind of like just how different it is to the traditional, long snout, sleek gold eyes, kind of smooth-looking werewolf of the modern day. And I also kind of like the suit look. I'm a big fan of the original Wolfman design, though. So, guy covered in hair with some fangs and a little bit of makeup usually does it for me. I think
Cameron's real truths are coming out now.
There's a reason I requested this episode to be done. I kind of like it as a more unique design, but at the same time, it does just kind of look a little silly. Yeah. No, I definitely see where you're coming from. How about you, Dave?
I like the transformation. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the body. The body's fine. It's the face. I'm firmly in the werewolf should have a muzzle camp. Yeah. This guy is, they got their face kind of squashed in, as you said. And that was disappointing. I remember thinking that the first time, and this time around didn't change my mind. I like it's the head is fine. It's like the ears, the little tough stuff. Perfectly fine. Why did you mash their face? Squash it flat.
It looks like a random.
That's what happened. You look at it and it's funny, and I didn't want it to be funny.
No, you wanted it to be scary.
I wanted it to be scary, and it was all the other shots leading up to the reveal, or when you see him. Really, it's the group of them kind of like waiting outside. When we get to that, that you get a better look at their faces because they're just standing there, and that's always a mistake in any kind of creature features.
Takes the horror away, doesn't it, to a degree?
Full frame the monster and sit there and look at it. Because the more you sit there and look at it, it's a dude in a suit.
It really is.
If you're lucky, it's a dude in a suit. Or if you're not lucky, it's the travesty that was American Werewolf in Paris, where it's a computer. So I thought that they I don't know. I probably would have liked to hear some commentary on this, and I do remember like some foray articles when this came out. everyone was heaping praises on this film, and the movie itself, great. Werewolves, not so much.
Like I said, to me, it just leaves the film a bit conflicted because there's some really strong aspects of this film, and I suppose if you look at it from the perspective that the things you said earlier, like about the significance of loss and those sort of things, that's the strong point. But I just think the werewolf aspect is just a little, is a bit conflicted. Like I said, the way that James Griffin changes them into werewolves is great. That's a fantastic. But the actual design of the werewolf, which, let's be honest, is quite a crucial aspect of these sort of films because it is the arguably the selling point. I think just slightly lets it down. It's it's just like, oh, what a shame. It's not. It doesn't make it. It doesn't completely make the film terrible. It's just a bit like, oh, shame. They could have really just done something, even if it did look similar to the sort of traditional werewolf that you see, sort of looks you see in other media. If they'd played it safe then it would probably have been okay. To me, it's lost it a point or two for that side of things. So sort of now now as we were sort of alluding to with the group of them, we're now sort of getting to the climax of the film at this point, where Ambrose knows it's fighting time. This month of training, between the full moons, we had a little montage. He's doing, I suppose, what would it be? It'd be almost like a Tai Chi form of using a shovel, isn't it? He's in his garden, doing that side of things, getting himself ready, and at this point he dons his military uniform, which I thought was a really good thing to do. It could have come across, well, personally, it could have come across as cheesy, but I felt it was a good choice, actually, because obviously it's a way, he can see he's going to see his way out, not see his way out of this situation. He calls his son to, effectively make up with him, leaves him a voicemail, and then it's sort of fight time. And this is the bit where he effectively uses a hearing aid, doesn't he, to help with this, and gets his silver bullets. I think he's got a rifle and a shotgun, isn't he? I think that was his and a revolver. And a revolver. That's it. To take on the werewolves. He basically uses the hearing aid to effectively, find out where they are, from a proximity point of view, and he starts sniping them because they're sort of collected outside. You can see actually that one of them, as I said earlier regarding the eye patch, you can see that one of the eyes is bust, isn't it, on one of the werewolves, which obviously was the husband that got bitten earlier in the film. Again, this sort of set of action scenes, I'm still a bit conflicted of, and I'll ask you guys what you think. That, again, going back to the guy in the suit part of things, there's this scene in one of the houses where he gets attacked by one of the werewolves, where it sneaks. There's seconds before he gets attacked. It sneaks from one wall to the other, and it's done very, very poorly as well. It's almost like he's literally a guy in a suit just going just going across, and then it grabs him from behind. And at this point, Ambrose decides to flip the werewolf over his shoulder, and I must admit, I cringed at this point, because it is literally, you could see the guy in the suit just being flung over, like it was a stuntman being flung over. And I just thought, oh, that could be done a bit better. It's, again, I don't think it necessarily takes it away from the film, but I was like, oh no, don't make it the guy in the suit. But I think at this point they couldn't really do anything different, because like you said earlier, that they've been exposed, haven't they? You've seen them as a collective where the camera's been on them for quite a while, so you can form your own opinions. What do you guys think on this?
Dave, you first, man.
Yeah, I agree. It was a little bit kind of goofy. The one thing that I kind of kept a suspension of disbelief in when I'm kind of viewing these werewolves, because if you look at it as if they were pretty old people turned into werewolves, I think that's the only reason he's like dealing with this the way he's able to, is because they're not young, spry, top of their game, empowered wolves. I think them turning into werewolves made them like the strength of maybe an average adult that doesn't have osteoporosis. I don't know.
Fair. Yeah.
But he's dealing with them that way, and he's, again, much more fit than any of these other people in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that may be carried over, and that's me reading into the film, and maybe prescribing attributes that these werewolves don't have. We don't get a whole lot of lore for these werewolves, and I guess since this is Monster Dear Monster, discussing a little bit of lore is probably the order of the day. We do see that the silver bullets that he requests are effective; those do work. We don't know if regular bullets would have done any different, because we don't kind of get that.
Nope.
And we kind of get a little bit of mythology where the small animals, the cats and dogs, dislike the wolves, whether they're in werewolf form or human form. They can sense that somehow. So we do have this couple of things, and then we, of course, remarked upon the fact that these do specifically change only on the full moon and rapidly. There's no downtime between James biting his new pack, and then it's like the same day or the night before. So there's no like wait period where you have to like gestate or something, or transform. You're kind of screwed. You're just going to become a werewolf.
So
I don't think they have any human consciousness. I don't think there's some sort of collective. They're doing a thing that they're supposed to do, but there was no like agreement between the human consciousness. Like when they're people, they don't know. He doesn't go tell them, "Hey, you're in my pack now." It's more just like he is betting on their animal instincts to follow him. So there's a couple pieces where they may have dropped the ball as far as plot consistency and informing that upon the viewer.
I agree. I think that they obviously had certain nods to werewolf lore, but I don't think that was the point of it, really, was it? I think they just did enough to make it effectively a werewolf film, but like I said, a focus on things such as the about Ambrose's story, effectively. So I agree with that. I mean, like I say, he's now the film now sort of effectively finishes out where he takes that down James Griffin as the sort of the last werewolf. It's quite brutally with his he ironically blinds him, and then he kills him with a tombstone. It falls on top of him, and then you see the bodies where they've sort of starting to turn back into their human forms. And I didn't realise this initially, but I didn't spot it initially that obviously Rambrose had basically overdosed on medication pre-fight, hadn't he? Before this last fight, I think. So he didn't turn into a werewolf. Effectively, his son then finds him dead, in a chair. Puts his eyelids down, and that, in essence, wraps up the film. So, overall, did you guys enjoy the film? Do you think it was, a good werewolf movie? Dave, do you want to start?
I like I said, I enjoyed the whole film except for the silly werewolf face. The fact that the movie is like a metaphor for accepting death. I mean, you get that month of time that he's preparing is that it's really the werewolf is the specter of death, and he's just has that month of time to reconcile himself with his impending death. He doesn't intend, I don't think, to escape this alive. As you point out, he takes that that overdose of the pills, which I did miss. I just thought, he just died from a wound. I don't know.
I thought that. It's only I read it afterwards. Yeah, it's not obvious.
I mean, the director is subtle with the other motifs, and then kind of putting in little puzzle pieces. He wants you to watch this film maybe more than once. I think, which is good. I mean, you want to make your movies, a repeated experience. And something that you would maybe recommend to a friend, hey, watch this movie, as we did. We all watched it, kind of off the cuff, and I don't know. I enjoyed it. There's things I maybe thought could have been better, but overall, I've seen this movie a few times, and I'll probably watch it again in the future.
Good. How about you, Cameron?
I mean, my opinion on werewolf movies comes with a small disclaimer, which is I adore pretty much every werewolf movie I watch, regardless of quality. But I can say this freely: I really do like Late Phases. Like not just as a werewolf film. Like I think it's quite a good film overall. Like you guys have said, like some of the werewolf design and some of the motions right at the end sort of let it down a little. And I feel it's a bit rushed overall. Like it's 95 minutes, I think. And that's actually a very short film these days. I feel it could done with, just an extra 10, 15 minutes to kind of pace itself out a little, make a few things make more sense, put a little more lore, as Dave said, into it. But overall, I really, really liked it just as sort of it's a well film with a bit more depth than some of the traditional ones. Like again, Dave was discussing that sort of metaphor of the werewolf being accepting your oncoming death. It's set in a retirement village. You're in the late phases of your life, sort of getting through all that. I think it's quite good.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I think that after I'd seen it, I was negative about it first. Finished the film, and I was thinking, and I remember because my wife watched it with me as well, and she was like, her words were, "Thank God that's over." But but she's not into those sort of movies anyway. So, initially I was negative, but I think in hindsight, it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. I think if I look at it more from the non-werewolf side of things, about Ambrose and the things we've discussed, I think that makes it more of a positive film for me. I think that because the werewolf side, like the design that I covered, we covered earlier, I think that was a bit of a letdown for me, which, like I said, for these sort of films is the selling point. So, that sort of, like I said earlier, knocked a few points off for me, but I don't regret watching it, and like I said, it was a relatively short film, and it had a good message with it. So I think it's definitely tried to be different to a lot of the other films. So I'll give it that. I think if you read the story on, the premise behind it on paper, it is a very, it's a good twist on a werewolf theme. So no, I'll definitely give it kudos for that.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say one final thing. Having a blind protagonist adds so much sort of tension and depth to the film.
Absolutely.
Compared to if it's just an old vet who could see, relatively okay, maybe wore glasses, you'd lose so much tension in especially those early sort of scenes in that sort of first half of the movie where he's, listening in and he's picking up on scent, and that first werewolf scene where you never see the creature directly. So that was the best touch, I think, overall of the film.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it creates it to be quite sort of a balance in a way, because obviously you see him as an older gentleman, plus he's he's blind as well, which is to disadvantage, but he's a veteran, which is he's obviously got a lot of skill from that, so it sort of puts it back in his favour a bit more as well. So it's do you have any final thoughts, Dave?
I did just kind of want to talk about just briefly a few of the movies that some of the cast has been in. So our Father Roger Smith, that's Tom Noonan. He was in the stellar House of the Devil. That was maybe like 5 years ago. And it was before 2010, I believe. But even more, I think, in line with what we'd like to discuss here, he was in Monster Squad. He played Frankenstein. And that was a favorite of mine growing up.
Yeah.
And then our headstone seller, which we kind of glossed over, that's Larry Fessenden. He was in Session 9, which I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's what inspired Silent Hill 2. Yes.
Oh, really? No, I haven't seen that. No.
I should watch that then. Jeez.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll cover that one. That one's another one
definitely.
that has the idea of not specifically monsters, but it's dealing with something other than what is directly implied in the film. And then Larry's also in Stakeland 1 and 2 with Mr. Demichi. He's in Hellbenders, which is a sort of a fun little detectives dealing with demons film. And then he's in the TV show The Strain. So he's in a couple more recent vampire films, and so maybe we'll take a look at those in the future. Then we have Officer Bennett, which we kind of skipped out on. He doesn't play a major role in the film in the late phases. He's part of the community, like security guards that kind of just check out to make sure all the old folks are doing okay. But that's Al Sapienza, and he's in the most recent Godzilla film, and then he's in the less popular Godzilla 1998 with Matthew Broderick.
It wasn't the end of the world, but yeah.
Yeah. And our gunsmith, This is Dana Ashbrook. He's in Waxwork, which was another excellent horror film, which also has a werewolf in it. And then he's in Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Good zombie film there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right, well, there we go. There's Late Phases. Right, I think we'll move on to our second film, which is An American Werewolf in London. Here we go. Cameron, do you want to give a bit of background on this?
Well, a bit of background. So this is directed by John Landis. It's also known for things like Innocent Blood, and it's from 1981. It's sort of it's a very practical effects driven werewolf film. I feel like they obviously didn't have a lot of CGI back then, but no, I feel this is really sort of a classic staple in sort of good werewolf films of the last, few decades. It's like, I just rewatched it this weekend. It's still fantastic. Really love this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely got that sort of, it's definitely got that British American sort of vibe to it, isn't it? It's sort of between the, because it's, as per the title, it's set in Britain, and for me, it does hit a few comic moments throughout the film, but no, I think overall it's definitely a staple werewolf film. What about you, Dave? What's your sort of initial thoughts on this film?
Pretty much the same. I hadn't seen this one in a while. It was nice coming back to it, and this movie's as old as I am, so
there you go.
It's not 18 years old, is it?
Yeah, is it?
But no, it is a stable film. So it's like I said, it's set in Britain, where everyone has stereotypical British accents. So basically, it starts with two American backpackers, which is David and Jack, where they basically start with backpacking in Yorkshire. For Brits, they'll know where that is. It's up north to a degree, where they all have quite amusing accent, I imagine, for people that are not from there. It's very stereotypical at this point. So they basically get off the back of a truck with sheep, and they basically end up in a pub called the Slaughtered Lamb, which is a fantastic name for a pub. And for anyone that's ever visited Britain, if we've obviously got a lot of pubs like this, and they do have these sort of names. This isn't, I know it's obviously for the film, but if you saw a pub with that name, you wouldn't bat an eyelid over it. They do have funny names like that, and it's a very stereotypical British pub. I've been in pubs like this in my life, and you do that. When you enter and everyone starts looking at you at the same time, that does happen. I must admit, even now, as an adult, I do get slightly intimidated going into country pubs that I've never been to, because that is the vibe. I'm not saying there's going to be werewolves, or anything of that nature, but people are very intimidating in these sort of places. So yeah, they've all got their stereotypical Yorkshire accent at this point, where everyone's like, "Don't go on to moors," and you need a translator at this point. So they sell. I mean, what did you got? For as non-Brits, what did you guys think of this sort of initial scene in the pub?
I guess I'll go. I've been in, as far as Europe, any pubs I've been into, I was a lot younger. So as a kid, you just don't you don't really have any association with it. As an adult, I've gone across coast to coast, Americana, and there's plenty of little hole in the wall, or anything that's not in a city feels like this. I mean, it's the same. You get there and it's like, well, this is obviously a local watering hole, or you'll get that kind of cross-eyed stare, and As long as you just sit down and keep it to yourself, it's usually all good.
Yeah.
Don't ask about the star on the wall, right?
There's your first mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
What about you, Cameron?
I mean, I quite like this. I've been to the UK a couple of times. I'm actually going again in July. Figures. But yeah, I've been to a couple of pubs like this. Only once old enough to drink. The first time I was like 14 or 15, I think. But I mean, it seems pretty accurate per to my experience. And God, what was it as went to pubs up in villages around Bath and York and stuff. So yeah, it seems about right. I've never been out to the moor myself, although I might go have a look this time round. Although I'll be sure to stick to the road.
Oh yes, stick to road, as they say. So they're a very intimidated crowd for David and Jack, which sort of fresh-faced American. Young adults that have obviously trying to embrace the British countryside, even though they're going to be in for a world of trouble soon. They notice that you said before that there's a 5-pointed star on the wall, which obviously slightly creeps them out, understandably. And they you see for a lot of people, there's a few actors here that are quite well known. They're obviously a bit younger. You'll see a young Rick Mayall at this point.
Yeah,
he's obviously famous for such things as Bottom and Blackadder and such like. Unfortunately, he doesn't have much of a real part in this. Really, he's just a background
it's a character piece. I mean, he's just
which is
in there for
a shame.
Scenes.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
Sorry,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's but yeah, he was sort of you could see him in the background there playing chess, and the also the actor that was playing darts. His name disappears now, but he's been in quite a few movies over the years as well. He's quite a well-known face as well. But they basically settle down for a drink. Try and settle for a cup of tea, which they barely get, and then you hear a story, a typical British pub story, which, like I said, you need a translator for to understand, and then then that's when at this point I think it's Jack, isn't it? He basically questions about the star on the wall, which obviously fools the place to be silent, and in a matter of words, it's basically. You may want to get out now moment. This is where they sort of tell him to, like I said, to stick to road, and they basically make a swift exit down onto the moors, and then at this point it comes back to the pub where they're sort of basically have all the locals there, sort of, especially the woman barmaid that's a bit. Obviously feels a bit guilty of sending them on their way to the moors, knowing what's out there, and with all the other locals sort of denying any sort of knowledge of it, and etc. And then this is where Dave and Jack come across the first sort of instance of the werewolf, where it's basically circling them in the fog. This is quite very stereotypical, isn't it? At this point, there's there's the fog, the mist, and it's all it's all dark at this point, and you can hear the roars in the background. I thought it was even though it's very traditional, it again because it's a very traditional werewolf movie, it wasn't out of place. I thought it was it had a lot of dramatic effect. Do you guys agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, Dave.
I do. But I think that since this movie came out when it did, it has a hand in creating these tropes that you say traditional, but I think that this is kind of bringing some of those things into that tradition. 'Cause, I mean, really, prior to this, all you're getting is kind of Lon Chaney movies. So, we get a string of this set off a werewolf movie craze, I guess. How we've seen the zombie movies in the last 15 years or so kind of just become the it thing. American Werewolf in London set off the spate of Howling films, Silver Bullet, it sort of started a lot of these tropes, I think.
Yeah.
The scene itself was, very effective.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good scene. I feel it draws pretty heavily from Sherlock Holmes, Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yes,
out on the
definitely.
moor, you hear something howling off in the distance, but it does have this one sort of moment. I'm sure, like in context of it's the early '80s. This is a top tier horror film of the time, but it has this moment where it's like, oh, it's in front of us. Come on, let's briskly walk away from the werewolf. They sort of just start power walking away in the opposite direction.
They didn't know what it was.
Don't they start singing at this point as well, don't they? They're sort of like, there's no werewolf.
Well, I mean, great. Both of these are younger actors, and if you look at their filmography, they didn't really have anything before this. This is one of their kind of major, and in the case of Jack, one of his only large roles. They jokingly, they're like, oh, they told us to stick to the roads, right? Whoops, we're not on the road. I mean, it's the most like overacted bit.
Yeah,
I think they get more comfortable as the movie goes, but this movie is not a for all of the gore and some of the violence and the themes in this film, it's not a horror film. It's a comedy.
Oh no,
yeah,
absolutely.
And that has to do with, I think, the director. Even his we mentioned Innocent Blood. It's his take on vampires. It's a horror comedy. That's what he does. So I think that lends to it, but it also gives us a little nice breather every now and then from the scenes of the graphic scenes we get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's like I said, it's again a bit like going back to late phases. It's quite a quite brutal film at times. I mean, I remember reading in the sort of trivia that the director, when he was sort of re-looking at the sort of one of the cuts of the film, he was actually horrified how actually brutal it was, at the time. But yeah, basically this scene now entails where David and Jack get attacked by the werewolf, which kills Jack. Which there's this funny bit where David runs away straight and then sort of runs back, doesn't he? He sort of so at this point Jack is getting mauled by the werewolf on the floor. Yeah. David runs away and then goes, "Oh no, I'll turn back." And then and by the time he turns back, Jack is dead. and then gets attacked himself. And then you see the locals that I'm guessing from the pub have turned up and start shooting the werewolf. And then you just see a scene where David's sort of falling out of consciousness and sees a human body. So obviously this is the sort of interesting bit now. So you've seen the werewolf being shot by presumably regular bullets. They're just using sort of traditional sort of rifle, sort of country sort of shotguns and
a couple of shotguns. Yeah.
So again, presuming it is regular bullets, not silver ones. And then you see that within seconds, when they're dead, they transform back into human form. So Cameron, what was your sort of take on that?
So I think it's interesting because this werewolf in this movie leans heavily on the sort of the curse idea, or at least the way it's presented it does. It's never completely clear if it's just David late in the film hallucinating all of it, or if it's legitimately the spirits of the dead haunting him. But I think it's nice, the idea that sort of this werewolf has been loose in the community for all these years, and just they know they can probably kill it, but no one wants to do it. No one wants to be the one to go out onto the moor on the night of the full moon and try and shoot the werewolf.
Yeah,
unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it makes it stand out a little, wherein the tension isn't, is the werewolf going to be able to be killed by the end of the film? The tension is what's going to happen, and is anyone important going to die by the time this is all sort of sorted out? Sort of changes the focus a little from you need this particular thing and you need to do this particular thing to sort of, the tension is more character based than overall story arc based. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Especially David as the sort of the main character. He, you do see a lot into his mindset, or shortly with his nightmare sequences, etc. I mean, what did you think about it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of that same thing. The themes of the movie aren't, specifically werewolf. It's more of that. I mean, we get a lot of lore where werewolves. The idea of that is it's like a psychosis where people dress up in wolf pelts and commit crimes or whatever, and all under the impression or that in their head they're a monster, and the movie plays with that. I mean, I like a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it. It's at the time, I'm sure that would have been a fresh take on this idea of the curse, and yeah, so that we already see that with the pub, and they have their 5-pointed star, and they're dealing with it in sort of an old world, kind of old country way,
Yeah,
there's a problem
absolutely.
that we can't or don't want to physically solve because that's it's a tight knit community, and maybe they know who the werewolf is, maybe they don't, but that's one of their own. It's an internal problem that outsiders shouldn't see, and that's why they kind of shoo away the boys from the pub.
Which is actually quite close to how these sort of communities can be like. But even in non-werewolf life, it is that sort of mentality. Very close communities. You look after each other, but only yourself, and there's sort of contained secrets and such like. So no, it definitely plays up to it, but it actually fits quite nicely with the werewolf theme as well. So no, I think that was a good choice for that. So with the moving on at this point, basically David wakes up in London, which is obviously where most of the film is going to take place. He wakes up 3 weeks later, not sure what's happened. He didn't, and comes around. This is where you meet two quite prominent characters. You meet the nurse, which is Nurse Alex Price, which is played by Jenny Agutter, quite a famous actress actually, or she has been in later life. She's been quite a few things. This is obviously her in her younger days, because I think she's now would be in her 60s now. And you've got Dr. Hirsch as the sort of the main doctor looking after David. They're quite interesting characters, these two, I must admit. With the doctor, he's sort of he seems to come across as half doctor and half detective, doesn't he? At some point throughout this film, he sort of ends up rather than just being a doctor, he ends up and just treating the patient. He ends up trying to research what's happening. The claims that David is making throughout this is quite amusing actually. Where he, because obviously you're thinking, how much time has this doctor got on his hands that he can sort of he can spend all this time looking into what the police should be looking into, because you meet the police at this point, who the main sort of inspector doesn't really believe anything that David is saying, because obviously David's saying that Jack got attacked by a creature, potentially a large dog or sort of wolf at this point, and they're saying that no, it was escaped lunatic, i.e. the human body that was got it retransformed back into. And like I said, you can see at this point that even though she doesn't do that much, Alex Price, the nurse, is going to be quite a prominent character at this point. You can see that. Well, I knew instantly that there's going to be some sort of love interest here. It just gave that vibe away straight away. In the way she seemed to care for him, etc. And at this point, we start seeing Jack, or the reanimation of Jack, that as a corpse, who especially starts. And this is where it gets into, like we said earlier, this is where the sort of comedy aspect comes across, doesn't it? Really, at this point, where he's talking to David quite casually. Obviously, David thinks he's going mad at this point, and it's sort of one of those sort of scenes where you're not really sure: is he mad, or is this actually the spirit of Jack coming back? What do you think about it, Cameron?
No, this is sort of, I think this is sort of the more interesting part of the film is you look back and you think, was he just crazy that whole time? Or is this actually a part of how this werewolf works? Because, Jack's message is, hey, so I was killed by the werewolf, and until the wolf's bloodline is put to rest, I am a living sort of spectral corpse. And I'm stuck here in limbo, and it sucks. Have you ever talked to dead people? They are boring. And no, it's interesting to sort of think whether this is David losing his mind as he initially thinks, or if it's part and parcel of the sort of more cursey kind of werewolf that we're getting here.
Yeah.
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it's ambiguous as far as whether David is seeing these revenants, or if it's just like an aspect of the curse, and that's kind of it's pushing these feelings of guilt that he might have had from literally leaving his friend to die.
Yep.
So that's a big component of this. What is at least clear is, yes, he is literally a werewolf. That part's not, I think, up for debate. But his mental state is, and in contrast to late phases, with that immediate turnaround from being bitten. I mean, we do get this really interesting. He's in a coma for 3 weeks. That's not a short amount of time. And,
no, that is
so
not.
there has to have been brain damage from just being out that long.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting that they chose that amount of time, and then this method, I think, to showcase these the impact that the wolf's acts have on like the human psyche, because again, the man part of him and the beast part of him they're connected, but they're not aware of each other. Or one at least doesn't bleed over to the other. What he does as a wolf does not come through. There's no memory of that as a man.
No.
Yeah.
We'll find. So I think that angle, that you get that personal guilt, but then you also get that kind of idea of maybe that plea of insanity, where your actions, while done under this curse, you shouldn't be held accountable for them because they're not under your control. And maybe that's an aspect of why that village kind of let things go on as long as they did, because maybe the only damage they're seeing is they're losing some sheep. Maybe there's not really people being, killed.
It's done on our part. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's done quite casually. It's odd because it's quite conflicted, because obviously Jack comes across because he's literally gored from these attacks, or he's literally skin is hanging off, etc. So it's quite dramatic, but he comes across as very casual, doesn't he? As he's saying it, almost jokey, as he's saying it. It's quite a conflicting scene actually, where he's saying to David that you know what you need to do. You just need to kill yourself. Just do me a favor, kill yourself, and then I won't be the spirit anymore. And it doesn't really get explained why the curse is. Obviously you understand it's a curse, and David now is a werewolf even though he doesn't believe it, etc. But you don't sort of really know the background on the curse. It doesn't really go into too much detail at this point of why. It's more like this is just the way it is. Jack is the way it is having to be like this, and that's what you're gonna have to do, David, and and have to do it before the next the full moon, etc. So yeah, it's quite a funny scene, but it's a very very prominent and very important scene for what's going to happen. And obviously, he doesn't believe Jack at this point. And so the next sort of part of the film is you see the relationship between David and the nurse Alex sort of coming on stronger at this point, which I found quite bizarre. I must admit. There's the whole nurse thing with David, not because of them eventually getting together. I just felt that there was no sort of real connection between the two of them. Like she was being very, very stereotypically British at times throughout this, and I sort of, there's that the Brit in me was sort of cringing at times where she was sort of. There's this one bit where you see all these nightmare sequences, which were quite, actually, before I go on, actually, some of the nightmare sequences were quite horrific, actually, weren't they? From a visual point of view, especially the one where he's having a meal with his family, isn't he? And it gets attacked. He opens the door, and what were they actually supposed to be?
These sort of Nazis.
Well, they were supposed to be Nazis, weren't they? Yeah,
Nazi werewolves. Yeah,
Nazi zombies, weren't they? Effectively, they're sort of
Nazi werewolf zombies.
Yeah, they're sort of a mix of things. Very. It's odd that even though I think it's quite ironic that it was a nightmare sequence, yet you can imagine the person that thought of this scene probably thought of it in a nightmare. They probably had this nightmare and thought, where can I slip this into a film? Well, I want to do Nazi werewolf zombies. And they're slitting throats, they're burning the place down. It was quite a horrific scene. So, which has a lot of visual impact, actually, on, throughout this part of the film. And again, then, is sort of contrast it to the calm that he has with the nurse, and it, effectively he gets discharged and ends up staying with her, as you do, which I thought was I didn't realise that's part of the National Health Service over here, that nurses do that, but it fits into this film, and she effectively gives him a place to stay. Then there's this weird scene where he obviously realizes there's only one bed for them to share, and she sort of says that I don't usually do this sort of thing. I've had 7 lovers, 4 of them were one night stands, and I'm thinking, why are you telling him this? It's really odd. Yeah. But and then you see the love scenes, etc. And at this point you can see he's got this connection with her, and obviously he still thinks he's going mad at this point, because he's now Jack is still starting to appear in a very worse corpse state. He's decaying even more, which is quite horrific. Again, for the time it was quite good effects, really, because obviously it would have been purely makeup. I think it was really good, and it's quite an odd sort of scene at this point, and they. He, like I said, you can see his sort of mind deteriorating, and it's almost where you can see almost like the wolf is taking over or starting to take over. Obviously, you don't see anything this time, but you can see, you as the viewer going, is he actually going mad, or is Jack lying, or is he actually going to turn to a werewolf? What do you think of this one, Dave? This sort of section.
That bit, yeah, I do like it, and I really like the fact that they had the corpse degrading Jack. It's it brings, I think, a sense of urgency, because you're wondering if he looks like this, what's going to happen? It seems to be a signal. It's a signifier of something. We don't know what. At this point in the film. To briefly speak to the earlier nightmare that he had with the Nazi zombie werewolves, I think, without directly consulting our IMDb database, I want to say that this is probably like an homage to the spate of Nazi zombie films that came out in the 70s.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of them, at least 3 offhand that I could think of that were prominent and did really well, as cult classics, I guess. And that's probably where that came from. That, or they decided to pick, what's scary at this point. The Cold War is still going on, so Nazis are scary, I guess. It's still in the cultural, mindset. But the whole thing with the nurse. You got to remember that she's been tending to him for it's not a day or two, though.
Over
it looks
3
like
weeks.
it's been 3 weeks. It's still abrupt. I didn't really see any kind of specific chemistry that I thought they had together. And then the way he's acting, he does a really good job of, I think his character's maybe 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's a much younger man. So there is that naivety that he does, he portrays that well. And so I didn't really have any issue as far as him not really getting what she was doing. Like, as far as bringing him home, he was just kind of like clueless. Like, oh wait, this is great. I guess this is cool. Like, I can agree to this.
Sure, why not?
When in London,
yeah. So that part was fun. The motivations for it, maybe a little bit questionable, but I think the scene, like, it's well portrayed, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
I'll give it that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's like I said, I think it was her behaviour that I found a bit odd, But like I said, it goes nicely within. Like I said, let's be honest, his character was not going to say no to that situation either, was he? So so yeah, this is where sort of the next bit is where things start going even more downhill. Where at this point, Jack has sort of said to him, "You're going to be a werewolf tomorrow," and again, he's still sort of palming this off at this point. And then that's where he gets locked out of the flat, doesn't he? So Alex has gone to work, and he gets locked out, and he has this scene where he finds a way of getting back in, and you've got the dog barking at him, you got the cat hissing at him, So again, similar to other films and like Late Phases where the animals can sense it in him, and then he has this little comedy, scene where he's there trying to like, oh, do I have a lie down, or shall I go to get something to eat? Oh, I'm not hungry, and it's just sort of this little montage of him just being restless in general, and then that's when as the full moon turns up, he starts stripping off his clothes. He gets very hot and starts transforming into werewolf. I thought this was very good, actually. The transformation, again, considering this is 1981, it was done very well. And again, contrasting my opinions on Late Phases, his form as a werewolf in this one, I felt was much better. I think I was much more comfortable, as a werewolf. It sort of looked to him and how he transformed, etc. I thought this was done, done nicer, basically. What do you think of this one, Cameron? Do you think it was better done?
This is like Late Phases transformation was nice, but this is like I said at the start, this is a classic film, and this is an amazingly well done transformation sequence, especially again for like the 1980s. But yeah, no, I literally just watched all the behind the scene stuff on that, and it took them a full week. Every day was a 16-hour day of shooting and makeup to get this 2.5-minute scene together.
Wow.
It was a lot of work. They developed new kinds of rubber. They made pneumatic rams using syringes to like stretch out the rubber hands and feet and make them look like they were growing. They actually started at the end where he was completely covered in hair and did that shot, and then trimmed it down a bit and did the middle shot, and then trimmed it down and did the early shot. So they sort of filmed it in reverse order as well. Stuff like, they had him in a hole in the set for when he's lying on his back thrashing around. It's actually just his head and arms sticking out with a rubber body, and like puppeteers manipulating the legs and chest. It's got some really intense work into it, and the end result is a really good, pure practical effects sort of shot that I just adore. It's amazing.
What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to add to this particular scene. It's the standard werewolf transformation scene to beat, or to try to, like, I don't know. It's that plateau where if you can get to this level, you made it. Everyone's trying to mimic this. This is what we see in any future the werewolf transformations. The amount of like the sort of the pain involved. I mean, this is like a complete like restructuring of one's body. Bones breaking and reforming, and doesn't look pleasant. It looks like it's
no.
And it comes across like perfectly, and because it's practical effects, this looks just as horrific watching it now, 36 years later, as it did when I, saw it as a younger guy. No, it's a great scene. It's iconic, and it's probably the best scene in the movie. We get the werewolf a little bit later on in a few like long shots and some close-ups, and a few times when it's I believe it's an animatronic or a puppet. Don't go pausing and zooming in on that. It doesn't look great.
They're okay
for a reason. But the werewolf, I want to say, reminds me of the wolf in Neverending Story. Like it's a big nature beast. It's not a a wafer thin, like long armed thing that we see in a few other films. It's intimidating. It's like it was a bear or something. It's physically this would kill you. You're not gonna try to fight it with your bare hands or a shovel.
No. Yeah, and I really like that design as well. It's like this big sort of mid-chest height when it's on all fours, I'd say. Sort of big, squat, very barrel-y shape with just almost tusk-like teeth as well. And it's the final transformation is a really good design.
Yeah, especially I think the eyes as well. The eyes are very intense as well on it. It's sort of very, very striking. And like I said, it's sort of, it's almost, well, to me, it comes across a bit gorilla-like as well. He's quite torso heavy. He's got, the legs aren't as big as well, but the shoulders and the back, etc., are quite large and such like. But no, I think the design on it is fantastic. I think this is a much more comfortable werewolf for me, if that's such a sentence to be able to say. On the comfortability scale for werewolves, this is definitely up there. And at this point, David goes on a killing spree, kills 6 people in there's this really good London Underground scene where he's chasing effectively an office worker that's obviously finished his day, and he's chasing him. But he's saying, "If whatever you're doing, I don't find it funny," and he's there just, then he runs away and obviously gets caught. He kills a couple as well, and and 3 homeless gentlemen as well, which you can, again, they made the point, you could see, I think it was Tower Bridge in the background, or one of the London bridges anyway, just to reaffirm it, it's definitely in London, as well as the Underground as well, make it quite iconic. And then after he's had this night of rage, he wakes up with the wolves in London Zoo, which I thought was quite a novel little aspect to do. And obviously when he wakes up, he's doesn't understand how he got there. He's petrified the fact he's surrounded by wolves they treat him as one of their own, because obviously even though he's in human form, they can obviously sense he's exactly, the dominant one of them all. And then he there's a sort of comedy moment where he's sort of saying, nice wolf, and backing away from them, and then he scarpers out of the roof, which is how he got there in the first place. Yeah. And then you've got this little funny scene where obviously you've got naked David trying to work his way back to the flat that he's staying at, where he ends up nicking some balloons off a school child, which I think is one of the funniest bits in it. I mean, it's creepy in one sense. But it's funny.
It's really great. Yeah, the kid is so deadpan about it. I think it's brilliant, isn't it? He's like, he's like, why would you give me £2 if you're a thief?
Yeah,
and then grabs the balloons, runs off, goes to his mother. Mummy, the naked man just took my balloons and ran off.
Yeah, I lost my balloons to a naked young.
Yeah,
fact, but. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So he steals a
fur jacket.
It's like a woman's fur jacket, and sneaks back in. He sneaks in like it's funny when he gets back into flat. It's like he's had a walk of shame after a night out, and he's just snuck back in like, oh yeah, hello, I just come back. I don't know what I did last night. Crazy night. Don't know what happened. And and obviously Alex is. Sort of been worried about him at this point, but again, that's where the comedy element creeps into this one. You know, and obviously once he starts hearing about the killings, he starts putting two and two together, realizing that he's the cause for this. And at that point, there's this funny moment where I think it's at Trafalgar Square. He runs at the policeman and starts trying to get arrested, and starts swearing, and he's got Tourette's, just throwing, trying to deliberately get himself arrested. So because obviously he knows he's a danger to the public, and I think that policeman had a lot of tolerance for him. I mean, to be fair, I think if that was in this day and age, he would have easily been arrested for what he was doing. And even asking the public, should he be arrested, which I thought was quite funny. And then, like I said, now we're getting to the sort of latter part of the film, where he tries to kill himself, and he sees Jack. And now, right? Okay, now we're coming to this sort of the scene with Jack in an adult cinema. Now, this was an odd choice. What's your take on this one, Dave?
I don't know why they set this in the adult theater there. I was watching this by myself, and I was still vaguely uncomfortable. I'm like, what? Why this is going why is it focusing on the screen? I mean, I don't mind an adult film as much as the next guy, but this felt like it was overlong, focusing on that, and I didn't feel that it added anything to the film. I don't know what the director was trying for, and I mean, I guess on this part I would like to hear some commentary from the director, like why are you doing it? But it's effective in that we get the other victims. We find that curse doesn't rely solely on Jack. It's anyone that he's killed returns as a revenant to try to guilt you into killing yourself. Yeah. So that aspect of it's really cool. Not killing yourself, but the idea that that's how this werewolf curse operates. And I wonder if it was it was the same way for anyone preceding him. Is it that way for every single werewolf or whoever has this curse? Is interesting, because if you think about it, if he just wounds one other person, is it like a line? Do you just get haunted by everyone that's ever been killed by this particular wolf while it's active? We can't tell because they killed the previous wolf. So we don't see his victims. But that would be something cool if they elaborated on that, and something else. Now I guess have to go back and watch the crappy American Werewolf in Paris to see if they still deal with that, because I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either. No,
Cameron.
No. I think I know why they set this in an adult cinema, and it is purely for the visual gag of when he begins transforming in the back row of the adult cinema. Starts moaning and sort of putting his head back and grips the front of the seat very intensely. And, the orderly comes by and just looks at him as I think that's what it was. I think that's for that gag. Like you said, it's a comedy horror more than a pure horror movie. And overall, the scene with the 7 revenants is actually pretty funny, I feel, because it's a very serious topic. It's you should kill yourself. How are you going to do it? It's you should jump off a bridge, hang yourself. And Jack's like, no, that could hurt though. I don't want you to have experience pain, David. I'm your friend.
Yeah. And it was funny actually getting the different contrast between the victims, because obviously you had the one that was killed in the underground was quite annoyed, look what you've done to me, you've turned me into a revenant. And then you got the young couple, this is Dave and Doris, hi there.
Really and then the 3 grumpy homeless men.
It's good though. So he and actually from what I've read as well, they actually, that porn film in the background is actually it is fake as well. They actually filmed it specifically for this part of the film as well. It's not they cut footage in from elsewhere. It is actually filmed deliberately for this film as well. So it's a little fact there.
Well, it had that tongue in cheek sensibility. I guess the porn film that they were screening itself was humorous.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah,
there is that.
The second guy walks in, it's I told you about this.
So after he transforms, he goes on yet another killing spree at this point.
Yeah, another killing spree.
Yeah, he gets. I think doesn't he kill the inspector at this point? I think he sort of bites the head off it.
Yeah,
I think, off him.
Quite a few people.
Yeah, because at this point he's obviously the police get called and they're trying to keep him contained within the cinema, and there's this. It's based around Piccadilly Circus, and there's this absolutely fantastic scene with the guy. Well, I thought it was anyway, with the cars crashing and people getting. It's so well done. It's so comedic the way you got cars crashing into cars, and those cars are then smashed into people that get run over, and then he's just causing pure chaos. And then obviously at this point the doctor and Nurse Alex have realised that there's a commotion, because word spreads like that. I don't know how, pre-internet days, but word spreads. There's a commotion in Piccadilly Circus, and so they rush towards to Piccadilly Circus and find that David's basically cornered in by the it is the police at this point. There's no soldiers. I think it's just police at this point.
No, it's just the police.
Yeah. So they corner him down a back alley. And she's basically convincing him to relax, basically I love you moment and such, and then out of nowhere the police just shoot him. Again, based on what we said earlier, but the earlier werewolf, we're presuming it's normal bullets, because I don't imagine they would have had silver bullets for this sort of scene, just in their armament. But and basically she goes to her knees and starts crying. Now, what I couldn't get over at this point is how, I don't know if it's the same for the copies that you guys would have seen, but this film just ends. Was that the same for you too? Did it just end when she was just crying and that was it? Just see his dead body?
The credits just roll.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is that it? it just abruptly ends. There was no, because usually with most other films you would see, mourning him, or at least her and the doctor having a chat about what came of things. It just literally just ends. That is it. You just see the credits, and you see he's transformed back into his human body with bullet wounds, and that's An American Werewolf in London. So, Dave, what did you think of it overall?
Revisiting this again, this many, almost nearly 40 years later, I didn't find anything that didn't hold up. The movie itself was slower paced than I recalled, and there's a lot of filler, I think, in the mid section of the movie that could have been maybe trimmed. It could have maybe lost about 10 minutes. Just kind of parts where it drags a little bit. It's ultimately, this is a character study, and it's about werewolves, but it's not. I think that's why it ends the way it does. It's an abrupt ending because a man's young life was cut short, due to ridiculous circumstances. That last scene, David the werewolf, he lunges at her, or he's about to, when she's talking to him. You see him, there's a moment of you think maybe he's just gonna calm down or just sit or whatever, but no, he snarls and he's about to kill her when the police fire. The thing I think that was they do a long shot of the alleyway right after he gets hit initially, and she's standing in there's no way that any of those police would have shot him. He's
that's
far away. He's in the back of the alley, and she's in the way, directly. And they hit him several times with some crazy sniper aim, and they're just looking down like iron sights. There's not I don't know. I wasn't satisfied with that. I wish they hadn't shown that shot.
Yeah.
If they had just shown the other side, it looked like they could have been done. But once they looked down the alley from the police perspective, it was they shouldn't have been able to hit him. But that aside, I was happy with the movie. The practical effects, excellent. Still top notch, and the acting for what it was worth was pretty solid. I'm completely glad that they made this, as much comedy as they did. simply just for the fact that there's a lot of violence and death in this, and they needed that levity. I mean, just that last scene with him rampaging, he really directly only kills like what, 8 people maybe, like total.
Yeah,
a lot of that is lateral damage and like fallout from people scrambling, or the cars crashing, and it killed I think a lot of people. It was probably like 20.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this was brutal, and I didn't recall that at all. I remember the ending, but I don't remember leading up to it. I just haven't seen it in a while, so this caught me completely like by surprise. I liked what they did with it, and I liked that chaos, and you can just imagine that this huge thing being loose in a city would have done something like that. I mean, it gives you that, I guess, that sort of Whitechapel, like Jack the Ripper feel, where something terrorizes a community, but they compress that feeling into like one small space in time. And, I thought it was very effective.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Cameron, do you have any sort of final thoughts on that?
I agree with Dave on maybe it could use a little bit of a trim towards the center, but overall this is such a good film. Like I told you, I'm a sucker for werewolf movies, but this is one of the best ones out there, and it's always a joy when I go back to rewatch it. I watch it like once a year at least. I always get it out again to just watch through it again. I'll offer one further criticism, which is the werewolf is incredibly fond of attacking from the right side of the screen. Like almost every single lunge is just its head coming out, grabbing someone's shoulder, and then they cut to like them on the ground or something. Like mix it up a little maybe. Because just like thinking back, it's like, oh, how did they get a shot on her? I'll tell you how they got a shot on her. In between the lunge and him getting shot, they didn't show you. He went 5 feet to the left to get onto the right side of the screen.
It's a known werewolf fact. We can only tap from the right.
Yeah. No, that's like my one criticism with how sort of the quick cuts of the werewolf are shot. They're otherwise very good. The practical effects are wonderful, wonderful things, and it strikes that nice balance between comedy and horror, I feel, overall. And, Nazi, werewolf, zombie, nightmares.
Exactly. Who can complain about that? Yeah, exactly. I know. I echo both you guys' thoughts. I think overall it was a really enjoyable film. Again, a little bit too long. Like I said, they could have taken a bit out of it, but I think as a piece, as a showpiece, it was really enjoyable. Both as a horror film, both as even a comedy film. I don't regret seeing it. It was I probably enjoyed it slightly more than Late Phases, but. Yeah, overall, it is a classic, and it's got the reputation it deserves. For a lot of the right reasons. I think that for anyone that's not really seen it, or anyone that's not really seen much of werewolf movies, I think it's definitely a staple one to see, and I think it's one of the first you should see. So no, we endorse it here on Monster Dear Monster. I think we can wrap that up now for this episode. I think we've done well on these two. So. Dave, where can people find you on Tinternet, as they say in Yorkshire?
You can find me on Twitter at Sentinot_plus. That's pretty much it. And yourself, Cameron?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as well at Knight_Twitten. That's Knight without the K. And I love to chat, so swing by. How about you, Matt?
Again, I'm on Twitter as well at NinjaBadger7, the number 7. And if anyone wants to give any comment, any feedback for this episode, it's much appreciated. We've got a few comments ready for the next episode that we do. Like I said, we're going to cover dog soldiers and anything werewolf related, and then we will go through people's comments. But like I said, if anyone wants to throw anything in over the next sort of week or so, it'll be much appreciated. And any feedback in general. We're still learning, we're still growing, still transforming. So yeah, if anyone wants to send in, it'll be muchly appreciated. And we'll see you on the next episode of Monster Dear Monster. Thank you very much.